Hello and welcome to the Brothers to Others interview series. So for the month of February, we have a new theme. And as we know, the month of February is all about love and loved ones. So our theme for the month is becoming and finding the right life partner in 2021 and beyond. Under this topic, we aim to achieve the following objectives. We want to learn about different relationship dynamics and how to navigate them. We also want to discover ways that one can be a great partner and how to find a perfect match. We also want to learn whether or not same-sex relationships are worth pursuing or even keeping. We want to distinguish between real truth and postmodernism in a relationship context. We want to find out how one can lead effectively without leaning on the oppressive side. We also want to unpack gender-based violence. We want to also unpack divorce and also singleton in one's late 30s to 40s. So to address this theme, our guest for the month is Pastor Mojalefa Daniel Maloka. Mojalefa Daniel Maloka is a husband to Mrs. Prudence Maloka and a father to 3 children. He has been pastoring at a Uniting Believers Church since the 8th of January 2008. The church has recently celebrated their 15-year anniversary. So congratulations to them, wishing them God's best and many more fruitful years in ministry. Mojalefa is a lecturer and a life coach, currently busy with his master's degree in business management. He holds a BSc degree majoring in psychology from the University of Cape Town in South Africa. He also holds a BA Honours in Psychology as well as a PGCE and a postgraduate diploma in Business Administration from the University of South Africa. He also attended at His People, now called Every Nation, Bible School in 2002 and 2003. He has a special interest in relationships, mental and spiritual health, and he is passionate about unlocking the human potential. So, here it is, my conversation with Mojalefa Daniel Maloka. Enjoy. Pastor Mojalefa, welcome and thank you for gracing us with your presence. How are you today?
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure, Sakhiwo. I'm well, and thank you for the invite, and thanks to everyone who's going to be watching this. I hope you find it very, very useful. I'm okay. I'm alive, and I think that's what's important, being alive.
Precisely. No, we are grateful to family for releasing you to be with us.
Yeah.
And thank you so much. So let's get right into it. So could you define the word relationship in your words and maybe tell us which definition is most relevant to us in this day and age?
I think I'm going to keep it simple. The more relevant definition for me is just a relationship is social interaction, whether long-term or short-term. And that one is all-encompassing, I think, because it speaks to romance, it speaks to friendships, it speaks to your relationships with your colleagues. So it's just a social interaction, and it could be short-term or long-term. So it really depends on what you do with it and for what purpose it exists. And then you obviously have to determine the course and direction thereof. So I think the most basic one being a social interaction is quite all-encompassing. Yeah.
No, I like that. And you also mentioned that it can either be short term and or long term. Could you maybe expand on
Yes.
that?
Look, there are some relationships that are not meant to last forever.
I see.
There are some interactions that are not meant to last forever, and you just need to be aware of those. I always hear that there's my mentor and my pastor who always jokes around and he says, "You guys with your friendships that you think are going to last forever, it doesn't work like that, you know." And it's the truth. I mean, there are some people that you were friends with when you were growing up, and that was it, you know. There's no relevance as you grow up, and there's no commonalities as you grow up. So you grow apart. You know, there are some relationships with colleagues. I mean, if you are in the IT sector, I'm not sure how it is now, but about a decade ago, everybody would just stick around at a certain place for a year at most. You know, if you spent more than a year, you were now a veteran. You were considered a veteran in your department.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how it is now in terms of organizational fidelity, but those relationships are not long term; they are short term. You know, so it's about really the purpose of the relationship, the intention behind that relationship, your vision for the relationship as well. You know, and obviously the common understanding between 2 or 3 people. You know, then that kind of determines as to the length thereof. I mean, you think of things like mentorship. Mentorships are also not meant to last forever. If a mentor lasts forever, that's great. But if it doesn't, it's also not the end of the world, because mentorships are probably not meant to last forever. You know, they are a social interaction also that varies between short term and long term, depending on what they need.
Yeah. Wow. So that's profound. It's something that really, I mean, you're teaching me, because you find you want to stress on a relationship to, you know, you're putting strain on this relationship, forcing it to want to last forever, only to find out that it was meant to be for a season. So thank you so much for that insight. So your wife, Pastor Maloka, once said, Mrs. Maloka, once said, something very profound, right? So she said, never make promises you can't keep. And ending a relationship with someone means you have broken the promise of loving and looking after the person. So what top 3 qualities should one possess or look out for when considering to get into a serious relationship? And I mean now a romantic relationship. So that one doesn't break that promise.
Yeah. Number 1 is trustworthiness.
Sure.
Being trustworthy. And these are values and virtues that are really kind of being suppressed or oppressed, you know, and it's a very important thing to be trustworthy. Be a man of your word. Be reliable, you know. I need to be able to bank on your word if I'm going to live with you forever.
Sure.
You know, because I can't always be scrolling through your phone because I'm not sure about where are you coming from, who did you interact with, you know. So I think trustworthiness is a very important characteristic. You look at where our country is right now, a lot of the commissions that we have up are simply because somebody broke trust. You know, they were given a high office and they decided to break trust.
Yes.
People trusted them and they decided to just do whatever they needed to do for their own benefits. So trustworthiness is so important in relationships. And when I do counseling with partners, you know, once somebody loses trust for their partner, man, it takes a lot to bring them back. And actually, to be honest, Sakhiwo, it's nearly impossible to take it back to the place where it was before. Because in the subconscious of the other person, you have kind of sandpapered a certain part of them, and it's left an indelible mark in them. And so trust is a very, very hard thing. So if you can maintain trust, keep it. And it's not impossible to build trust again. It's possible. But just don't lose it in the first place, because living under a cloud of suspicion and being angry that somebody is suspicious is another thing. Trust. Let me not go too far. And then the next one is humility. Submission is one of those contentious issues at the moment in relationships. And yet we forget that the Bible says couples that are partners need to be mutually submissive. Precisely. Above just the woman being submissive to the man, it has to be mutual submission. And but for me, submission is just humility. Just be humble. Just be humble. Be down to earth. You are not, you can't be looking at yourself and having this grandiose picture of yourself to think, she got a catch, or, and so on, to a point where the other person really feels insignificant in the relationship. So be humble, be down to earth, and be that kind of person that says, wow, man, I got a good catch in you. And humble yourself. And I'm not saying be a doormat. I'm talking about leadership. It's a posture of the heart. A posture of the heart that says, do not think of yourself more highly than you ought. That's humility.
Sure.
You realize that, I need to just be relational and see other people as worthy of existence, having intrinsic value. That's humility. Respecting the existence of other people, including your partner or your spouse. It's the other people are not the scum of the universe, and you are the Messiah. No, having a Messiah complex is a huge problem in relationships. Narcissism, which is the flip side of humility. So that's the other thing. Humility. Be down to earth. Be humble. Like Moses, the Bible says there was no man found who was as humble as he was, and yet he was still able to lead. But he was humble. He was down to earth. He had a good idea of who he was and how he fit into the world, which is very important.
I see.
And then the third one is tender love and care.
TLC.
Love your partner. TLC. You can't, man. You can't not be tender loving and caring and expect to survive relationships and be enjoyed by your partner. That tender love and care, man. TC, that's what they used to call it. Go expressing it in how you handle the other person, making sure life is okay for them. There was this other wild song that I saw, but it was quite interesting, where the guy was like, do whatever that you need to do for this woman. And then I saw another video on social media where the guy was actually like laying jackets on the ground, and the lady was walking on the ground, and he's like, no, guys, and he's telling everyone, just move aside, Nancy's pala. And that's what we need to aim for. To be loving, man. When your partner thinks of you, if they ever think about cheating, they're thinking, and I'm gonna lose that. Somebody that has really cared for me and loved me and is so tender and is so loving. Why would I want to lose that for this? So those are the three things that I think are quite important.
Sure. No, that's really valuable information right there. Trust is a big one. Say what you mean what you say, and humility with that TLC as well. The tender love and care. So thank you so much for that. The other question I want to find out from you. So I have this book, right? I'm not sure if you can see it. It's 101
okay.
questions to ask before you get engaged by Norman Wright. So in this book, he obviously suggests 101 questions, and I've read this book and gave it to also my partner before, in the early stages. So he mentions these 101 questions to ask before you get engaged. And what I want to find out from you is, what are the most 5 important questions that you'd ask before getting into a serious relationship? And if you could, in your own words, obviously, please just explain each question.
Okay, so this one was a bit tricky, but I think I'm going to use it more on self-reflection.
Okay.
And I would say you need to ask yourself, am I marriage material? Before I go out there and I get into a relationship and so on, am I marriage material? Am I the kind of person that's marryable? You know, am I Mr. Right or Mrs. Right?
Wow.
And it's a very important thing, because one of the things that I think is a problem, Sakhiwo, is we don't spend enough time with ourselves. And because of maybe fear of being alone, and we therefore end up having so much unfinished business, you know, in terms of self-development, personal development, like you haven't gotten the basics right. You know, one of the things that I was scared of years ago, and that's why I just never ventured into relationships as such, was I knew that I was not emotionally intelligent to a point where I could handle somebody else. I was barely taking care of myself. So I'm thinking to myself, listen, man, you need to grow up, because once you have somebody there who's gonna be requiring attention, and yet you still require attention yourself, it's gonna be a mess. It will be breakup after breakup, makeup, breakup, and all the other stuff, because you haven't figured out yourself yet. And I think it was a mature decision, you know, to say, look, man, I don't think I'm ready for relationships. I can barely think about what I need to do career-wise and so on. So was I marriage material? I don't think so. You know, and that is why I just paused. So that period, Sakhiwo, of self-discovery, self-development, just making enough progress and enough strides in terms of your personal growth, understanding your purpose and destiny, understanding why on earth am I here for, what on earth am I here for, understanding your purpose in God, understanding you know, the things of God, understanding how the world works. Before you go out there and you bring somebody into a world that's absolutely extremely incomplete, you know, and you say share my space, but the space is not shareable, Nakon, because there's too much of yourself also in the picture. You know, because once you involve somebody in your life, you gotta be prepared to share your space.
Wow.
Now, if you are not prepared to maybe let mama go or let daddy go, let siblings go, you need to adjust, grow, mature, check yourself out, check your levels of emotional intelligence, check your financial readiness. You know, so am I marryable? And then the second one obviously connects with that. Is there marriage on my mind? It's the same thing also. To say, am I just doing this for the fun of it? Because there are some people who are just in love with the idea of being in love. You know, they just like being in love. But it's like just this vicious cycle in their lives. They're just in love with being in love. But where are you going in this relationship? No, it's just for the ride. You know, I don't know. Time will tell. You know, but you are basically revoking your agency as a human being with a will and emotions. You know, you need to take agency of your actions. You know, you are a free moral agent. You've got all kinds of autonomy, but you can't just give it away to the wind. So do I have marriage on my mind? Of course you need to think about marriage, because that's the end. That's the end. It's not just a means, it's an end, you know. And am I ready to commit? And this is another important one. I believe commitment is so important, Sakhiwo. I always tell people that butterflies disappear, and they should, because if the butterflies remain there forever, then obviously you live in this cloud, and when reality hits, you know, you don't even see things the way that they should be. Like the reason why we get attracted is because of the butterflies, right? You get sexually attracted to somebody, or just physically attracted to somebody, and then you are in love with them. That's how life gets you to fall in love with people. And then after that, obviously, we get desensitized and everything. But then if you are uncommitted, then when the butterflies leave, that's love leaving for you. And yet I believe in moving from solid, from liquid to solid. And for me, commitment is solid. Butterflies are liquid, and they're important. Infatuation and everything, that's very important. If I'm not sexually attracted to somebody or physically attracted to somebody, then obviously it makes it very difficult to kind of keep my eyes on them. But when you get to the solid part, the foundation must be solid. For any building or any structure, any system to prevail, the foundations must be solid. And commitment is a very important value that you need to build, and it must crystallize, Sakhiwo. It must crystallize. You must reach that point, because stuff happens in life. Stuff happens in life. We fall in and out of love, but if the foundation still remains, you'll still be able to find yourself back at that point where you are saying, this person is my love, and I don't think I want to swap them for anybody else. And that is a mature decision. And should I stay around with somebody that I'm not attracted to? I would say stick around with somebody that you are committed to.
Wow.
Right? Because attraction comes and goes. Right? There are people that I thought were attractive 20 years ago. I look at them and I'm like, okay, back then maybe it was infatuation, because I look at the same picture back then and now I'm where I am, and I don't think anything much really. I'm like, oh, okay. You know, because that's how liquid the whole thing of attraction and so on is. It's important, but it's important for us to understand that it needs to be surrounded by commitment and values that are important. You know, to say I'm committed to this cause, I'm committed to marriage, I'm committed to the institution of marriage, I'm committed to this person that I'm raising a family with, and I'm committed to growth. So commitment is a very important value. And I'm not dismissing the importance of attraction. It's important. But if that's the only reason why you are with somebody, because you're attracted to them, it's really, really flimsy, and it's not going to last forever.
Sure. Wow. The other thing that Norman Wright also recommends is, before you commit, you should never ignore the red flags. And then, you know, he speaks about these red flags. I think it's about 20 of them that he mentions that one needs not ignore. So could you give maybe someone a few red flags that should never be ignored before committing?
The number one is, be careful of people who are eye specialists. Eye.
I as in eye.
No.
Okay.
Eye. Yeah. Those are very problematic people.
Wow.
If somebody cannot stop talking about themselves, you need to challenge that premise. Because how are they going to share space with you if all that matters is them? Whenever I do counseling, and especially when couples are fighting, I studied English, so like every word you speak, and it doesn't help also that I studied psychology. So every word that you speak, every word you speak, I measure it. I check your facial expression, every single word.
Sure.
You know, so whenever couples are fighting, whenever I hear I, that's where I kind of say, And whenever conflict happens, then you hear a lot of I's, because at that time the person has detached themselves from the we, and it's now about me and me defending my fort, you know. And so that's when I will kind of say, but what are you building? Are you building something for the both of you or for your own self-gratification? So those are things that one has to think about. So narcissism is a huge thing. If somebody's a narcissist and they like the reflection of their own face, you know, whenever they look at them, anything, they just want to see themselves. And they see themselves. Superiority complexes, messiah complexes. Narcissism is a huge problem, because in most cases where there are narcissists, there's a lot of what do they call that thing? I'm going to find the word and I'll remember it. Where the yes, it's gaslighting. That's what I'm looking for.
Oh yeah.
So yes. So gaslighting is when somebody makes you feel guilty for something that they are orchestrating, and at the end of the day, you feel guilty for it. Yeah. They make you feel guilty. You are the one that's wrong. You are the one that's seeing things. You are the one that's not seeing things well. You are gaslit, and so on. But a narcissist will do that. He will abuse you and use you, or she will abuse you and use you, whether emotionally, sexually, physically. You know, there'll be a whole lot of stuff that goes on through narcissism. So I was thinking about something, Sakhiwo, and I'm sharing this for the second time in 2 days. The issue of, and I'm gonna probably like do something with this information, the issue of cult relationships, that there are some relationships that mimic cults.
Wow.
Like you are in a relationship with this person and it's almost like you're in a cult, you know.
Hectic.
Because you have been mesmerized by this person, but this person is controlling, they are mean, there are all kinds of things. They're manipulative, they're seductive as well. They are all kinds of things. They're liars, they're controlling. So it mimics a cult, where at the end of the day, unfortunately, the end of the road is death. You die, your soul dies. Sometimes physically you die. So the other thing is controlling behavior. And the other thing that I'd be careful of, that's a red flag, is somebody that doesn't have anybody they listen to. Nobody gets through to them. No one. I would say be careful. I would say be extremely careful. So if this person, if you can't go to anybody when it comes to them, I would really be concerned. How are you going to fix issues? How are you going to fix the problems that are there, the challenges that are there, if no one gets through to them? They'll be the first person to say, I don't want anybody knowing my business. And we must fix this ourselves. I don't see anything wrong here. Then how do you get corrected? I'm a proponent of getting counseling. I get counseling every year because I've realized I'm a complex machine. I'm a complex machine, and I've had to accept that. So I get counseling every year. I see a psychologist every year. I've got brothers and mentors. I've got a pastor who's above me. So I've done my best to make sure that at least somebody gets through to me, because the problem again is with us, the smart ones. We tend, because of the fact that we've been so, praised most of the time, nobody has corrected us, because most of the time we were the ones that were getting the marks. 100 out of 100 for maths and counting. Everybody praises you. But if nobody is a machine. We are human. We have faults and flaws. So if you don't have anybody kind of going to you and saying, Bafo, I think you are getting this area wrong. Are you open to being helped? If you can't be open, there's a problem. And it's going to be difficult to chat with somebody who is like that. You know? So the other thing is abusive behavior. Just how do they take care of their family members, or how do they relate with their family members? Just the family. Be exposed to Utetanjani with their mother, or the sisters, the siblings, their pastor, for example. How do they speak with all these people that are in their space? because if the person is that ill treats people, surely they will ill treat you also.
Yeah.
So you look at how they treat other people as well, and the other thing is obviously manipulation and deception, which I spoke about when I was talking about cult relationships. So those are the main things that I would say, look out for those.
No, look, you are really helpful, Mojalefa. Really, this is it speaks to the character of a person, the core of who we are. So I really thank you for that. So, do you then recommend in that case? Then, would you recommend jumping straight? Let's say you were in a relationship like that. Would you then recommend jumping straight from that relationship into a new relationship after a breakup, or should one wait for some time? What time frame, if any, would you give, or should one give themselves before getting into a new relationship?
Look, there is something called rebounding, right? And it comes from the whole thing of basketball, that when the ball did not go through the hoop, somebody can grab it and try and score again. So it's called rebounding. But when it comes to relationships, it's not wise to rebound. It's because rebounding is immediately getting the ball right after while it's still hot. We need to realize, guys, that people are not a game. Other children are not a game, and it's not just about you. It's about the world, and I think it's important that we position ourselves correctly in the world that we live in, because here you are. It's almost like human beings are pawns for you. So you have to be careful of that. And there's this popular phrase now that's called heal first, and I think it's true. Spend time trying to heal from the hurt or the pain or the rejection that you got from a previous relationship. And I can't give you a time frame, Sakhiwo. Somebody can heal in a month, can heal in a year. A year, definitely. You probably, if you do things right, you can heal from there. But I can't tell you what you need to do. But the closer you are to the hurt, it's almost like somebody getting into a serious accident and then they get hospitalized, and they're the ones that pull out the stuff that they put on them, especially deciding the right, I'm walking out. You need to involve people in the situation. Look, I just came out of a relationship. And I feel that some things I need to work on. Get other people to walk with you in the journey and get discipled, disciplined again and helped, and then, there are people that will tell you, if you go that far, to say, look, I think you are okay. Like, it's all right, Ngoku. Or you will also feel in your heart, but no, man, I'm no longer doing this out of vengeance and anger and trying to prove a point. And I'm not going to be the type of person that's going to be, holding the hand of my partner when I see my ex, or putting my ex on Facebook so that they can see, putting my current on Facebook so that my ex can see. Those are things that show, Uba, you haven't healed.
Wow.
So time frames are going to differ. If you are not trying to get back at your partner, one of the acid tests is, if I'm not trying to get back at my partner, and you are not basically getting into a relationship, trying to spite somebody else. Those are things to look at. If you have you need to look at, do you have an unattached perspective? You are not attached to the other person, an independent future. That's what we are talking about. So you're not going, because most rebounds, sometimes you can see, but this new one looks like the previous one. Like, the way they look. I know we all have types. So it's a difficult one to spot. But sometimes you can see that this is just a new old one. So an independent future with
Okay.
the person is a very important thing. Then you kind of see, but no, this person, you are fine. You are not getting into this trying to heal yourself. If you
Okay.
are getting to a new relationship trying to heal yourself, then you are in rebound mode. You are in a deadly space. You need to heal first, emotionally, find yourself again,
Sure.
you know,
Sure. Sure.
find the purpose for relationships again.
Yeah.
And then you can go ahead. As long as you are still, emotionally attached to another person, you still have what we call soul ties. I would really be concerned, and I would say rather get counseling and get help first to get over that, and then you can move on.
Sure. No, value bombs. I think I liked that phrase that you mentioned where you say heal first. I think that encompasses what you've just said, because if you move from one relationship to the other without healing, then that's where you tend to do all these things that you mentioned. There is a friend of mine. This is me asking for a friend here. Who has been into this relationship, for a couple of years, and then obviously there was a breakup, and about 6 months after the breakup, the person has been engaged. So the other person, right? And the friend is had to say, "Oh, so if this person can move on so quickly." From the relationship, then it means they had already invested time into the new relationship. So how would you advise a friend of mine in that case?
Heal first and move on.
No.
Life,
But yes. So the thing is,
life is not fair.
okay.
I think what's important is to understand that life is not fair, and you can't live your life under speculation, because now you are putting yourself under unnecessary trauma. You are traumatizing yourself. Wherever you are trauma, because the person cannot answer, and they don't owe you an explanation.
They don't.
They've moved
Yes.
on,
Yes.
you
Yes.
broke up.
Yes.
It's a hard truth, but it's something that we have to accept, that the person has moved on. I probably may never know what was on their mind back then, but it, as the popular phrase says, it is what it is. This is the reality I am faced with, and I have to face forward, because if I live my life on speculation, I'm going to traumatize myself, and I need to live. I need to move on. I need to live. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on healing, personal healing, healing and recovery. I need to heal, because now if you are going to traumatize yourself, it's you taking a step back. It's regression, and you need to now focus on what is my future holding. Most of the time when we look back at our lives, we really cement ourselves. It's a setback. And there's a life coach that says, if you have a setback, don't take a step back. Don't cement yourself in a setback, but prepare for your comeback. And that's my advice to you, my brother, my sister. Prepare for your comeback. You'll probably never know. There are so many questions that we have about our past relationships that we probably may never get answers for. We don't have the millions to do a commission of inquiry to say, can this person come and answer the questions that I have about what they were thinking during that? It will never happen. Just leave it alone. And it's a tough one, but you need to just prepare for your comeback.
Sure. And I like the phrase. If you could maybe just repeat it for us as well. Let me just write it down as well.
Tim Story says, if you have a setback, don't cement yourself in a setback, but prepare for your comeback.
Amazing.
Don't take a step back. Prepare yourself for your comeback.
Wow. No, thank you so much. Okay, I want us to shift to same-sex relationships, right?
Yeah.
What advice can you give to someone who is approached by a person of the same sex to be in a serious relationship with them? And please advise this person as someone who's actually considering giving it a chance.
Look, I think one needs to assess their values and their beliefs. What do you fundamentally believe in, and what are your values? You know, that's the foundation of everything, because it determines your culture, your way of life, and how you are planning to do things. So I would say to you, evaluate your beliefs and your belief system, not just beliefs, but your belief system. What is the fun? I'm a Christian, and I'm a biblical Christian, a Bible following Christian.
Okay.
So my belief system is informed by my Bible believing, by Bible believing. That's what informs my belief system, right? And then on top of that, then it will be societal norms and how I socialize. But below that is the biblical foundation. So I would say to you, sit down with yourself, call yourself to a board meeting, and ask yourself the question, what do I fundamentally believe in that is important when it comes to sexuality and gender and marriage and relationships? What informs that belief about same-sex relationships and so on? I can't tell you what to do, but it really depends on whether you've chosen to be a Christian or secular. And if you're secular, then you'll have your own norms and values and beliefs. But if you're a Christian, then it does make sense that the Bible needs to be your foundation. What does the Bible inform you to do? And if you are seriously considering that, then obviously then you'll have to renegotiate your values and beliefs so that they can link up to whatever that you think is important. But if you are going to have those two in the same spot, where you believe really in same-sex marriage and yet your foundations are biblical, then you're going to have what is called cognitive dissonance. You're going to really be in between a pillar and a post. It's going to be hard, because the foundation speaks one thing, the cognitive side of your life speaks another thing.
Yeah.
And now you will need to kind of match those. And what really causes the biggest level of confusion is those two are in a clash, they're in a tension. And the sooner you can resolve that tension, the better. Because then it will require you to now either stick with the belief system that you have, or renegotiate that belief system so that it fits in with whatever cognitive, behavioral thoughts you've really kind of, ideas you've kind of accepted as part of who you are. The core here is your beliefs and your values. What is important to you, and what are your belief systems? And renegotiate everything so that it connects to that belief system. If not, you will have to redo the values and beliefs. So the other thing that I would say to you is know yourself. There's this phrase that says, unto thine own self be true. I want to add something on top of that to say, unto thine own God be true.
Wow.
Which is a very important element. But principal to everything, Sakhiwo, your belief systems and your values and your value system are so critical. You need to sit down with yourself and ask yourself, what is important to me?
Sure.
What are the things that matter? Because that goes to even, how you will do your marriage, how you will do your life, how you'll do everything else around you, your values and beliefs. And we tend to not think that deeply. And that is why we actually don't come out as solid people. We are tossed around as of the wind. But align your life to your values and beliefs. Plain and simple. Yeah.
Wow. No, thank you so much. Let's say now someone has obviously considered all of those things, and this person is considering to straight up reject the proposal. How can they do it in a loving and non-homophobic way that will build up the other person of the same sex?
Announce yourself.
Okay.
I think that's what's important. It's clear that probably the person does not know you that well. And maybe it will be good to announce yourself, because if you make it about them, then you might probably be hostile. But if I show up and I say, my name is Mojalefa, and listen, I am a Christian, And as a result of that, there are certain ideas that I follow. There are certain prescripts that I follow, and one of them is not this kind of life. So I appreciate that you find me beautiful or handsome, whatever qualities you think so, but I must make it very clear that I am attracted. I am attracted, or I align to heterosexual relationships as part of my life. So when you explain yourself, it has nothing to do with them. It has to do with you. The parting shot will be they will understand you better after that conversation, because you would have announced yourself in a meaningful way, you know, and you will not be using insults like, nah, this is how I am, and so on and so on. No. You just explain, listen, like, this is the kind of life that I live, and this is where I align my life. So you choose your words, and you leave that conversation being clear to say, listen, and I'd really appreciate that if we could keep it that way. If it's a professional relationship, can we please stick to that? And I'd appreciate that this becomes probably the last conversation that we will have along these lines. Because I've made it clear to you, and I don't think I've minced my words. Do you have any questions, by the way, about my faith, about my conduct, about why I believe what I believe? And please let it not be attacking questions, but clarity-seeking questions. I'm open to answering clarity-seeking questions.
Mojalefa, you are really helpful with these answers, and I can tell you now, you are helping someone out there who may be faced with this situation. And so I want to now shift it to the person who is doing the proposing. So what can you say to someone who is secretly attracted to people of the same sex, for the fear of being judged or ridiculed? And this is someone who actually is Christian.
Okay. I would say to you, surrender your attraction, your same-sex attraction, to God in prayer. In other words, pray about it. Talk to God about it. You know, there's a big brother of mine who always says this, and I always laugh at him when he says that. But it's kind of
so
just
true.
saying to all, we all have something we are working on. And for whatever reason, I mean, you are not responsible for how you were raised or what you experienced in life in certain parts. So, you know, quit feeling guilty about it. But as long as you know that it's something you are working on, it's very important. So I would say to you, surrender your attraction to God in prayer. Secondly, surrender your attraction to God through obeying his word. Seek to obey the word of God. So we fight thoughts and maybe behaviors that are not aligned to biblical scripture through speaking the word, meditating on it, you know, muttering it, and focusing on it. If you have a headache or you need healing, it will not help you to trust God for wealth. It will help you to trust God for healing and reading scriptures on healing. So then you need to look for scriptures that speak to your identity, you know, speak to your desires as a male or a female, to say, God, I need to surrender this to you. And I need you to let your word minister to me. You know, the third thing is be accountable. You know, if you know, obviously, that maybe this is not something I would love to persist, open up to mentors, open up to people that are mature, where you explain to them, this is the space where I'm at, and I realize that this is problematic for my faith life, and I'm going to need you to walk with me for the longest time, because some of these things then may probably never disappear. And I think for us, I'm glad somebody did speak about this, to say, you know, it will be foolhardy of us to say, you know, you will pray and it will go. Sometimes it will not go. This will be something that you will have to discipline yourself forever with. Just like somebody that has a problem with alcohol or with smoking, You know, sometimes that thing will always come back because it's what the enemy knows feeds you. You know, so you will have to fight with this all your life. You know, an attraction to a lot of women and so on. You know, having a polygamous mindset.
Yeah.
Those are things you'll have to fight with forever. You know, I know a lot of men have that they fight with forever. You know, it's a fight for life. But then you have to ask yourself, for what end is this? And the end is, I will be glorifying God through this. And I remember somebody saying this to say, there's nothing wrong with just deciding I'm not attracted. I'm a man. I'm not attracted to women. I'll just stay single.
Okay.
Because I know it probably will not help me to get married to somebody that I'm not going to love the way I'm supposed to love. And that will be the fight of your life. But then we know that there are people that made a choice, a principled choice to remain kind of like eunuchs, so to speak, to glorify God or to fulfill some sort of end or outcome. And it's possible. Is it easy? No. Is it possible? Yes. And I thought that was very, very powerful.
Sure.
And so I think those are the hard choices of life.
Yeah.
Sakhiwo.
Yeah.
But if God means something to you, if your testimony in Christ means something to you,
wow,
then those are things that you kind of take on and you say, if this is the yoke that I'm going to carry, God, make it easy for me to carry it. As easy as possible. I know it may probably never be easy forever, but make it as easy as possible for me to function in it, you know, so that I can fulfill destiny and do what I need to do.
Yeah, it's quite deep stuff, and it really needs one to truly introspect themselves and obviously prayerfully introspect themselves and seek answers from God, you know. Is it normal to be attracted to the same sex and the opposite sex at the same time? What are the fundamental truths when it comes to this?
I think the word normal is quite a difficult thing to explain, because then me coming from a psychology and philosophical point of view, I would ask you, what does normal mean?
Sure. Wow.
You know? So is it, what I can say to you is, does it happen? Yes, it does. As to whether it's normal or not, it's a totally difficult thing, because for me, life is just abnormal. So what I can say is, does it happen? Yes. That I can vouch for and say, yes, it happens. You know, even for God-fearing people, God-loving people, it happens. Because you are human, and unfortunately, you live in a fallen world. And because we live in a fallen world, we are exposed to all kinds of spirits and persuasions and influences that we have to fight with daily. That's why we fast, Sakhiwo. That's why we pray as hard as we do, you know, because we live in a tormented world. And until we get out of it, until Jesus comes back, then it's a fight for life. It's a fight for our lives. So humans are complicated. The world is pretty complicated. And there are certain tensions between man, whether man is made or man is born, that we'll have to deal with forever. It's a tension that we'll have to wrestle with forever. It's a tension that's there forever. And that is what leads me then to this point to say, all these things that are going on, whether it's same-sex attraction, being attracted to a lot of women and not knowing what to do, or a lot of men and not knowing what to do if you're a woman, you know, coming from an abused background. It's all an indicator, Sakhiwo, that we need God.
Yeah.
We need God. We need his help. We need his intervention. We need to invite God into our lives to say, man, I cannot do this life thing without you, because the things I want to do, I don't do. And the ones that I should be doing, I do. So that whole tension that's there that Paul had is the one that we will have to kind of wrestle with for the rest of our lives. We need God.
Yeah. And just to throw another question out there. So from a Christian perspective, can you be friends with someone who's, you know, battling these things? Or should you just say, hey, no, you are disturbing my faith, so stay right there?
You can be friends with whoever you want to be friends with.
Okay.
The main thing is for you to realize that though you will be mutually influential to one another. As long as you can friendly know how to stand your ground and be firm about your convictions and your values. And as long as they don't tinkle with them, because my biggest problem is when you have friends. It's almost like when we had friends and you just got saved. That's why we'd always be told, find new friends and so on, because we know that friends are quite influential to our values and our beliefs. So unless you are able to negotiate around those kind of things, and your friends are not the type that will say, don't you want to drink, when they know that you don't drink.
I see.
That's why I have a problem. And in most cases, that becomes the deal breaker anyways, to kind of say, look, I cannot be hanging around somebody where I have to always be putting up defenses. Then that's not a friendship.
Okay.
So those are the difficult things that you'll have to negotiate with. But remember, again, we live in a world where we interact with all kinds of people. As long as people are clear about their stance, it's a very important thing.
Yes.
And as long as we don't tinker with each other's values and norms and belief systems, then I'm okay with it. That's why we always kind of say, spend time with people that share the same values and beliefs with you, because then it becomes easier to have good relationships with somebody with whose values you find commonality. But then if at the very basic foundations and fun, because remember, if I don't steal and I have a friend who steals and the cops coming to the room and clearly lie, chances are high we'll both get arrested. Because if the police are in the same room, they will arrest you and then you will have to bail yourself out later. So sometimes we save ourselves the inconvenience. But I would not want to be the kind of person that says, don't interact with anybody who's like that. But I would like to say, there's an old Xhosa hymn that says, "Ungahlanganyeli nabo emkhubeni emibi yabo." So there are limits and there are barriers and there are boundaries that are there that have to be looked at. You have to have boundaries and barriers.
Yeah. No, thanks for that insight. And like I always say, it's value bombs. So let's maybe go a little bit to the next level with this conversation. We live in a society where people believe in postmodernism, right? So you hear phrases like "my truth," "the force," "may the universe be with you," and all these type of phrases. What is the real truth when it comes to relationships? And also in a relationship, how can one lead effectively a person who shares or strongly holds such views?
Look, I think relationships are about giving.
Okay.
If there's a truth that I would share, it's that relationships are about giving. And actually the right word there would be sharing. And you can come up with whatever truth you like. We know that John chapter 3 says, "For God so loved that he gave." And that was a pattern for us. Say, if you truly love someone, you will give, you will share. And that's the basic foundation, because if you can notice, when couples divorce, the first thing that goes out of the window after trust is sharing. It becomes one of those scramble for whatever I can get. I'm getting it because it's mine. It's not about us. So that kind of says to you then, relationships are all about sharing. We live in a society of mistrust, like we live in an age of mistrust. So relationships are about trust. They're about caring. They're about building something in common, and sharing an experience, a lifetime experience with each other. So for me, that's the real truth. God is love. And he's shown us so many times that I love, so I give. I love, so I give. I love, so I forgive.
Yes.
So giving is at the core of true love. Giving is at the core of relationships. You know, if the two people can just make up their minds about, I will give, I will share, you know, to the best of my ability. I will communicate truth and involve people who walk in truth to be part of what I'm trying to build, you know. So the truth is God. God is truth. And we will get to that just very soon, and I'll try and expound on that. But sharing, as they say in kindergarten, sharing is caring. And that's what relationships are all about.
Yeah. Sharing is caring. I love that. Okay, so do you believe in feminism or patriarchy? And how can strong feminist or patriarchal views be addressed in a relationship?
I don't believe in feminism and patriarchy.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't. I believe in biblical patterns.
I see.
And yeah, I believe in biblical patterns because when you look at, for example, the Merriam-Webster dictionary on what patriarchy is, it says it's social organization marked by the supremacy of a father, of the father in the clan or the family, legal dependence of wives and children, and the reckoning of descendant and inheritance in the male line. Broadly, it's the control by men of a disproportionately large share of power. So that one just gets to the point. It's a control by men of disproportionately large share of power. So it is a social construct. It's a social system that was created to reinforce or to enforce the male domination and maybe misogyny at that also, and all kinds of things like bigotry and so on. So I don't think that is something that is biblical. I don't think it's something that is in the Bible. And even feminism, because feminism was the response to patriarchy.
Yeah.
We know that some people may argue and say matriarchy is the response to patriarchy. Well, that's a discussion for philosophers and so on, which I'm not willing to engage in. But we know that feminism really came as a result of trying to answer back, to say we are tired of male domination, and all of a sudden we are going to declare that women don't need men. But what the Bible teaches us is the interdependence between men and women. And it adds on to what I wanted to share about relationships, the interdependence of each other. Because when Eve was created, she was created because Adam needed help. And I want to be clear about that. Adam needed help. That's why even when God created Eve, he said, this guy is bored to his last degree. And you know, he bored himself. He was bored. He was counting animals probably 100th time, same giraffe, counting, you know, and God is like, man, I need to create somebody that's going to complement this person. And that's going to have a will of her own, abilities of her own, that's going to come in and complement this person and live with them and be with them. And I'm going to create somebody who is this person's equal. And that's what I believe in. I believe in the equality of human beings. Right? I do also believe in the separation of roles and the difference, not separation, but the difference of roles, which is where I think the tension is. We believe in in equality, but we also believe in the difference that is there. We are not the same. Men and women are not the same. The wiring is not the same. We are all wired differently. In the household, what I believe in is that a man is built to lead when it comes to a house, a home, a family. A man is born to lead. But when you look at just how women are created and how they are powerful managers. They are able to actually, you know, there is someone called a manager, and a manager is quite powerful. When you're a musician, you have a manager. When you know, all kinds of things, and it's almost like a handler when it comes to like private investigators and all that. So women, when God looks at women, he sees these powerful beings that are able to manage a man and all that he does. That's a very powerful role. And that's what the Bible has taught me. you know,
Sure.
and the management role of a woman. Come on, man. It doesn't get better than that, because here you are. God has given you what it takes. Look at how women are able to just by being. I mean, even angels were mesmerized by women. That's how much power a woman has.
Yeah.
And that's what the Bible teaches us, in spite of what goes on in society. So I absolutely believe in men being called to lead their families and so on. But remember that it's a nucleus. A family is a nucleus, and there are other parts of the world like business and politics and the 7 mountains and so on. And women can hold their own because they're not building a family there. They're living life. Yeah. I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
No. I hear you clearly.
So in that case, let the women be. Let women be able to express their abilities and their giftings to build, to express, to build the same world that we live in. Yeah. I mean, you look at powerful women that have done great things, and I'll use the Bible. Deborah did amazing things. I was reading a research paper recently about the life of Priscilla, who was a New Testament preacher, and she is mentioned quite a lot in the New Testament, and just her prowess and her ability to get stuff done. So when you look at the Bible, and I always laugh at people that kind of say the Bible is patriarchal. Patriarchy is something that came, recently.
Yes,
it's something that's not even 300 years old or something.
Precisely,
So we need to be able to actually kind of say, where do these things come from? There was life. There was pre-patriarchal life. There was pre-feminist life. And the Bible has always, when it is studied well, it kind of presents to us a pattern of how things are done. How can a woman, in the Bible, we see a businesswoman in the Proverbs 31 woman. She goes out there, she does amazing stuff and makes her husband look good. Talk to me. I mean, for me, I absolutely just believe that the whole thing of patriarchy and feminism is a social construct, and it's something that came from man's obviously desire to kind of create whatever social structures they wanted to create, probably even to the extent of saying booting God out, because patriarchy and feminism have nothing to do with God. So, which is something that I think we need to also just be firm about. To say what the God system, patriarchy and feminism are not the same thing at all. Yeah.
No, Mojalefa, I like the way you've addressed. In fact, it's your answer to that question was quite broad, and it really gave us a broader understanding rather than to just single out the two. I want us to now go into preparing for marriage, right? So in your book, I actually have your book. I remember I bought this book in 2015, and at that time I was not even in a relationship. So, but what I wanted to learn were lessons that I needed to learn at that time before I could commit into a relationship. So this book, On Board the Courtship Life Lessons Before You Say I Do, you stress the importance of premarital counseling. Do you recommend this to everyone, or so is it to everyone, even people who are not necessarily Christian? And why is it so important? Why is premarital counseling so important?
Somebody once said, marriage is one of those places where people get a certificate before they are deemed to be competent. That's an insult.
That's outrageous, hectic.
And on some level, obviously, it kind of speaks to the absurdity of expecting somebody to do an entire shift of their workspace without equipping them. And I mean, we go to university before we work in most cases.
Yeah.
And it kind of helps us to be competent, right? And even when there is informal training, there's also formal training, like you go to university, but then there's informal training where you do trade and all the other stuff. So learning has to be there. And it concerns me because marriage is a game changer. Marriage is a life changer. And for somebody to think that they can go into marriage, even when the opportunity allows itself, just go in there and be the best when they have not been equipped or they have not learned anything. And even, I mean, we are Africans, Sakhiwo, and even before, like there are cultures that I know where they'd have to sit down with you and talk to you and train you, to speak to you, to say this is how things are done. So to eliminate learning and development before you get into a marriage is to really kind of to take things for granted, But if you want to be good and maybe last longer, learning will help. You can learn, you can drive, but you still need to learn how to drive.
Yeah.
And so I always say to people, to be forewarned is to be forearmed. It's a very important thing,
That's true.
So premarital counseling is there for the equipping of the journey. It's always good to do that, to know how other people have navigated through this. What are their values? What are the knowledge? What is the knowledge that's there around the subject of marriage? Because it has been studied, like any other institution, it's been studied. So what is out there? So you are able to glean from experience, to glean from knowledge, to glean from studies and researches that are there. It did help me to be counseled and to be advised, because then at least I got a step closer to kind of not having expectations that were weird and strange, or maybe doing marriage in a way that would be counterproductive. It does help to kind of know stuff, to be exposed to information. Are there people that have had good marriages without it? Yes. But if you have found a system that works, then just, learn how to involve stuff that works in your relationship. It helps to make life easy. If we know that going to university does help in your journey, then go to university, because it will help you. Is everybody going to be helped? That's a different subject. But if you can see that a good majority of people have been helped, then why not just learn how to do it?
Sure. Yeah. And also you might have touched on this one. So someone who's already married, would you then say they still have a chance to undergo some form of marital counseling, or is it too late for them?
My answer is very simple. Presidents still need advisors.
Amazing. Yeah, I like that. I like
plain
that.
And simple.
Okay.
You are going to need counseling forever. Yeah. Advisors you are going to need forever.
Yeah, that's true. No, I totally agree. All right. So there is another book by Timothy Keller. So this is the book, The Meaning of Marriage, right? So on this book, he argues that the essence of marriage is love. However, he also argues that love without acts of service oftentimes doesn't sustain marriage. So what traits would you say make marriage last, particularly young marriage?
Know your partner's love language. I think Gary Chapman's book on love languages was a breakthrough moment, I think, for a lot of marriages. Because we all have different love languages, and if you have never read the book, I'd advise you to learn the different love languages. And then besides that, I would say learn how to sincerely apologize.
Sure.
Sincerely apologize when you're wrong, and it's very difficult to do that, but you have to learn how to say I love you. You have to learn how to say I am sorry. You have to learn how to say I forgive you.
Sure. Wow, I like that.
The next thing is keep learning. Like any other institution, there are always changes that are there. Gary Chapman's book is a latest revelation. It's probably 10 or 15 years old, but prior to that, there was no such discussion Was it being
Yes.
done? Yes, but it was not probably in that kind of package.
Yes.
So if somebody's gonna say, but I learned about marriage 30 years ago, then you're gonna miss out on the new packages that are coming out.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it will not help you, because one thing, unfortunately, that we are learning now is that a lot of couples, as soon as the last child leaves the family, they divorce. Because all along they lost the chance to build a marriage, and they started building their family. And as soon as the family now leaves, they don't have a marriage.
Sure.
And that's around what age? Yeah, 50s. Yeah. Around 50s, then they kind of like, no, it's fine, it's okay. And then they move.
Hectic.
And then they keep God first. That's the next one. And then get a mentor if you can. Get mentors involved. Get people involved. Any system that is a closed system will end up stinking.
Wow.
So you need to be open. You need to be open to input so that you can get better. Yeah.
Sure. No, look, I'm learning quite a lot. I must say these are principles that I will also apply in my own personal relationship for years to come, So could you also maybe just briefly address the issue of finances in a relationship or marriage? How can you advise us about the making, the handling, and the use of finances?
Okay. The sooner you can get rid of I, the better, especially when you're in marriage. My money, I did this, it's my car, and the sooner you can do that. I'm not saying you shouldn't get like your own personal possessions and your identity gets dissolved, but if the only thing that you are going to share is a bed, then you have a problem.
Wow.
Because the whole idea of the two shall be one, it actually means that these people shall be one. Yes. When you look at them, they have all things in common.
Yeah.
So the sooner you can learn to share, the better. Because as I said before, sharing is caring. And I'd also say you need to sit down and ask yourself, what's your relationship with money? When personally, what kind of relationship do you have with money? We all have attachment styles, right? Attachment styles is also like a psychological term and stuff. There are people that have anxious and fearful attachments to money. There are people that have secure relationships with money. Some people have insecure relationships with money. There are some people that are always anxious when they have money. They don't want it with them. They're scared. There are some people that are afraid that money is going to leave them, so they hoard as much as they can, and money belongs to them and they can't share it. So those are things you need to ask yourself. Do I have a secure relationship with money? Am I willing to use it to grow my relationship? And unfortunately, with us coming from the background where we come from of scarcity, we end up actually bordering more on the insecure, fearful, and anxious side of marriage, of finances, because we've never had a lot of it. So, or even those that have a lot of it were probably taught the wrong things, like being like Scrooge McDuck, who was just always swimming in money. I don't know if you watch cartoons, but I did.
Yes, I did.
That kind of thing is stuff that you need to ask yourself, where am I when it comes to money? Am I the kind of person that is scared? I can't give, I can't offer, I can't give to my spouse, You end up having secret accounts because you don't want any, just in case, Those are the kind of things you need to really be careful of, because money can become a god, and it can mess up your relationship, because it affects how your relationship with your in-laws is, and society is, and so on. So avoid debt also. That's the other thing that I would say. Do your best to avoid debt. And that also adds on to the next point, which is don't keep up with the Joneses. Stop trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Yes.
When you are a couple, do your own thing.
Yeah.
Like what other people are doing, learn from what other people are doing, but don't compete with what other people are doing. It's not your race. You know, if somebody can afford a Jaguar, let them afford their Jaguar. But you do your own thing. If you can afford only a Renault Kwid, go for it. You know, but don't ever feel like you have a responsibility to catch up for some reason, especially when it comes to trying to build your family and your relationship. So I always encourage couples when I'm doing counseling to say to them, guys, stick to your own lane. You know, God will bless you and will do it in various ways. You know, so you just keep your head up and keep moving and realize that you have intrinsic worth, regardless of whether you're a janitor, a cleaner, a CEO, a director, or whatever. You know, you are who you are, and God will continue to bless you in your lane. I have realized, Sakhiwo, that even though I'm a UCT graduate, I've worked at, I've studied with UNISA, VERTS, blah, blah, blah. I'm called to be a pastor.
Yeah.
That's my calling. I can't run away from it. That's at my best, that is what I am. Maybe an intellectual and so on, but when people kind of think about me, they probably will think life coach, pastor. That will always be there. So that will also say that even how I live my life, I need to be geared towards that. And I need to be comfortable in my own space, and God will bless me in my own space, in my own place.
Sure.
You know? So realize that grace creates space and it creates space for you. So you need to discover your grace and stick with it, even as a married couple.
Appreciate it. So yeah, maybe let's just conclude. So you also talk about toxic relationships, right? This is obviously in your book. You narrate the story of Amnon and Tamar in the Bible. That's in 2 Samuel chapter 13. But moreover, you make one interesting observation, and you make an observation of Jonadab, the instigator of the rape.
Yeah.
What role should friends play in a relationship? And also, is it wise to confide in our friends about our relationship or marital affairs?
Look, I think friendships should support and advise from a distance.
Okay.
There has to be a boundary and a barrier. That's why we have different relationships, Sakhiwo, and a lot of us don't have mentors, unfortunately. But this is where mentors and abantu abadala they feature. I was listening to an interview recently of a musician who just passed on recently, and they were interviewing a junior to her who was talking about the relationship of this person whom they called Mama something, and I'll just say Mama Sibongile Khumalo.
Yes,
and she was talking about that, right? She was talking about her relationship with Mama Sibongile Khumalo, Gloria Bosman. And she said this lady coached us. She rebuked us. She even spoke about how I look. And it was so fun. She's like, she even told me last time that, you see, when at Gloria, this thing of yours being a tomboy is such a problem. You need to put on some makeup.
Yeah.
And the age gap, the maturity gap also that's there was so important. The knowledge, the tacit knowledge, there's something you can't escape from. There are people who are more experienced than you. Capitalize on that thing. In most cases, your friends are not. So we have this missing gap in terms of advices, Sakhiwo, that needs to be bridged. That's why you need a pastor. That's why you need advisors. That's why you need counselors. Even our president has a group of people that advise.
Yes.
But they are more mature in terms of, they are more knowledgeable about that particular area. So I would say to you, from a distance, let your friends advise you, but they should not be the primary advisors. Get people who will be your Mama Sibongile Khumalos in your life when you are a jazz musician or whatever. You know. Getting a mentor is so important, Sakhiwo.
Yes.
Because even your partner will know when Sakhiwo is tripping. Then I'll be able to call whoever is the mentor and say, listen, we need help. You know, getting a psychologist involved. I have a psychologist. I'm a pastor, and I see a psychologist because I've realized that the mind is such a tricky thing that I need an expert in the field. I need someone who's mature, who's knowledgeable in the field. And my friends cannot give me that assessment. I've had friends all my life, but they haven't been able to touch the key areas and help me to grow. And that's what mentors do. That's what advisors do. They help to clear out the murk. They also help to take you to the next level and to clear out uncertainties. So friendships really depend on a lot of things, you know, and some friends are not good, like in this case. So, but when it comes to a mentor, their primary role is to help you grow or to help to clear up some issues. You need a mentor, you need an advisor, you need somebody who's more mature. And some of us, we've even dismissed our parents who are extremely knowledgeable, Sakhiwo. Some of them are sitting, they are a well of wisdom, and we ignore them because for some reason we think we've got this thing. And unfortunately, when all things happen, then we unravel, and that becomes so unfortunate.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's so true. I mean, you remind me of some lessons that I learned in my premarital counseling when they were talking about priorities, right? So particularly when handling conflicts and things like that in marriage, I can think if I had a problem with my spouse and I conveyed to my friend still has that image of the problem, even if we've made up. And this goes on as well with family and confiding to, you know, these other people. So it's so important to have people that you look up to, people that you can account to, and people that can mentor. So thank you for that. And I really, I'm taking a lot from it. So how can a person deal with a case of rape or physical abuse in a relationship or marriage?
Okay. I think these ones are very tough. So with the rape, is it rape within the relationship or rape outside of the relationship, or just, because I would say to you, get counseling, number one, right? That's the first place where you start. And then talk to people who are seniors, who are your mentors. Like your mentors, if you have mentors, get them involved, right? Get them involved, get your family involved. That can help. But I would also say, before you get maybe family involved, get your pastors involved, because then they would probably know how do we navigate around this thing. And then if none of them actually understand the language that you are trying to put across, when it comes to the issue of rape, of course, police station is the first place you go to. You've been violated, right?
Yeah.
So that is a very, very important thing. So I would say to you, get seniors involved. Get people who are concerned about your well-being involved. And you can escalate it to a place where you take it to the police. If nothing gets done, if those people are not hearing you and they're not getting anything done, then you get people involved who are more serious. When it comes to rape, because I want to distinguish between the two, rape is rape, right? Something has been done to you that's not okay. Call people that are of authority and get them involved in the case. If you've been raped, you are walking somewhere, you got raped, the police are the first people you call, right? So that they can make sure that you are fine and you get all the kids and everything that needs to be done. Physical abuse, when we treat physical abuse, you get seniors involved, you get more mature people involved in the relationship so that they can help you out. This is the situation we are dealing with. What's going on? What do I do? What are the next steps? That's why I always say to you, you need to have people of authority involved in your life. The key here is to say, get people who are your seniors involved, mentors, like escalate it.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Escalate the matter until where they can say to you, with the most critical one being the police and so on. I do believe that there is a role that they have to play. So get seniors, get people abadala involved.
Makes sense. No, thank you for that. And then, I'm also mindful of your time. So maybe the last two questions and then we call it a day. So
Thank you.
Is it wise to advise a person to leave an abusive or toxic marriage? Why or why not?
That's why I was saying we need to distinguish the rape and the physical abuse, because these are very sensitive topics.
Okay.
With the rape being the one that you go directly to the police, I'll always just direct that. And then the reason why I also said separated, because there's also something called spousal rape, which is quite difficult to also have to deal with. So where do I start? How do I deal with that? That's why I just gave a blanket explanation of saying go to seniors. And by that, I mean your mentors and pastors as the base foundation. So when it comes to the question that you asked, Jorge, advise a person who to leave or not, I would say to you, more often than not, I would say yes, but each case needs to be looked at for its own merits. Yeah? And I'll tell you why. Because you look at like a relationship like Joyce Meyer. Joyce Meyer was, in her own words, she said that she was a horrible person. She came from a very bad dysfunctional family where she was abused. So she was quite a bad person to marry. But Dave, her husband, was patient, worked through it, and so on. So that's why I always say, guys, don't do relationships alone. Get people involved. Mingle with mentor couples, so that whatever develops, it's under the watchmanship of other people, so that if anybody has bad habits that they have, it can be spotted and worked on and fixed. And if somebody needs to be taken to the police station, they're taken. But there are people that can vouch for what's been going on, and that helps, because I remember a case, Sakhiwo, in a couple's life that I know, where I didn't know that this couple was abusive to one another. When they came to us, they were perfect angels. But after a couple of years, then I get a summons from the courts, and I'm supposed to go and now speak as a spiritual leader. And I get there and I find out that this couple, some of them have bite marks. So these were things they were hiding, because they never opened up their marriage to scrutiny. They never opened up their marriage to advice. So when challenges came, they had to contain the issue to a point where they split and all kinds of nonsense happened and hearts were broken and stuff. So be open. Be open. Find people that you can be open with. No man is an island. Yeah.
Sure. No, thank you for that. Very valuable information indeed. And I'm sure our audience will appreciate this. Last question. How can you encourage a person in their 30s to 40s who has given up on relationships?
I'd say keep living and heal and mingle with people. Don't isolate yourself, right? And pray and put yourself out there. Trust God for a brighter future. Trust God to heal. Work on yourself for whatever reason. That's why I advocate for counseling. Work through it. That would be my advice. Work through it. And those that have given up, I would say, ask yourself why you've given up, and get some counseling and some advice about what do I do. Work through it as well, so that you can make better strides in life. Work through it.
Makes sense. And for someone, just a follow-up question, for someone who feels lonely at these ages and desperately wants a companion?
Put yourself out there. Work on yourself and put yourself out there. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Obviously, I'm not saying throw yourself at every man. Putting yourself out there and throwing yourself out there. It's not the same thing. Putting yourself out there is kind of interacting, man. Be with people, be that nice person that's there, that does, that shows up. Be where people are, because the one way you'll get spotted is to be where people are. and you get to relate and make good friends. If at most you'll make good friends, even if no Prince Charming or Mrs. Charming comes along, but at least you would have had good friends. And most cases, in some cases, friendships do lead to romance. So stop hiding. Of course, work on yourself, go to the gym, get some good makeup or whatever, that you need to do. Get some nice clothes, fix your teeth, fix your eyes, and so on and so forth. Get a nice hairstyle. Personally develop yourself so that you can make sure that you stand out and you love yourself. And when you love yourself, people love you.
Precisely. No, thank you so much. I feel like I'm the one getting the the advice here. Okay, so we usually ask our guests to recommend a book to us on that specific topic. So what book can you recommend on relationships?
The 5 Love Languages, Gary Chapman.
Okay.
That's the best relationship book so far for me. Yeah.
What maybe just give us the top 3 people that we should follow on relationships?
That's number 1. I'll be the first one to say, follow me on social media. Follow me on social media. And then there is a program called Marriage Today. I always advise people to listen to that. It's quite informative. It's amazing. So I think that's the one person that you also can look at. And then what's the other one? Let me see. I think the other one is Focus on the Family. I know it's not people, but those are like Twitter feeds that you can follow. So Marriage Today, Focus on the Family, and you can follow me on social media. So those are the platforms that I could speak about.
Okay. No, Pastor Mojalefa, thank you so much for your time. We don't take it lightly that you were able to join us. As we always say, keep going.
Thank you, guys.
Now, just how impactful was that? How inspirational, how educational, and how fulfilling it is to hear the answers to our really great questions. If you have further questions, please do not hesitate to comment on the section below, the comment section, and we may see your comments and respond to them. And also, Pastor Mojalefa himself may see them and respond and give insight. For those who want to reach out to Pastor Mojalefa for life coaching and or relationship advice, please look at his details on the description below and connect with him. Until then, always keep going.